So there's this concept when making films that the first frame is the most important, and regardless or not whether that's actually true, I think it can still be said that they are still pretty important, which I think is also a concept that applies to games. So on that, I'd like to discuss the Ratchet & Clank series, specifically the original trilogy, and how it opens its levels. Okay, I'd like to put some frames up and overlay some rule of third bars over them. Do you notice anything? Yeah, me neither. That's just an excuse to show you some nice looking frames. But I guess now we can just say that that's me showing you what they look like. Right, now we've got that out of the way, I'd like to draw your attention to something that is missing from all of these frames. Depth. Okay, see this image here? Notice how both the black levels of the building are lighter than on me, and also how the buildings are not properly in focus. These are the effect of atmosphere between the subject and the background, and of camera optics, and they make the buildings look far away and also big. Now, you'll notice these stills don't have these. Remember, this is a PlayStation 2 game. There's no overhead in the rendering engine for effects like atmospheric fog or for depth of field. So they can't really convey a sense of scale, can they? Wrong. Of fucking course they can. I mean, have you been looking at these? You see, they just have to rely on other tricks like composition to do so. So what kind of compositional tricks are they using? Well, first off, there's Ratchet. He uses our frame of reference. We spend enough time staring up his ass. We know how big he is. And instead of putting him on the opposite side of whatever the point of focus of the environment is, which is usual for normal compositions, he's put directly under them. Or if the environment takes up the entire screen, he's put directly in the center of the frame. This more directly relates teeny-weeny Ratchet and the big-ass world, you know, building that depth and scale. There's also the effect of pulling the camera way back. If we make Ratchet small and then we make the building or the environment or whatever big, it makes that world seem bigger, again using Ratchet as the frame of reference. I mean, just look at these where Ratchet is big, like, gross, right? Ugly. See, if we make Ratchet too big, it makes everything else seem too small. Basically, it just doesn't look nice. However, there is a more obvious point to these shots than just the art team getting bored. They're telling you that this big fucking thing is the way to go. You know, land on a swamp planet, where am I going? Oh, I'm going over there. These trains are probably important. Which might seem obvious, right? Just go to the big thing, but it's actually a handy way of showing you where you're going on a way that doesn't quite register on the ground. The Megacult Mall doesn't really feel like a massive complex overrun with swamp life from the small bit of it you get to explore. It more feels like one long, extremely stupidly designed corridor. Don't get me wrong, a corridor with good game design, but with kind of stupid architectural design. However, from the outside you get a sense that the place is much bigger than the place you get to explore, that it isn't just made for the 240 seconds of gameplay that you do and doesn't cease to exist the second you leave and it's unloaded from memory. It's also a quick way to highlight the way forward, which again might seem obvious, especially to those who can complete the game faster than I was dropped as a child, but it helps you register just that much faster that this way is the way you've got to go. I'm not saying you couldn't find the way forward without these screens. I mean, certainly not. Like, if these games design is one thing, it ain't fucking subtle. But it reduces friction just that little bit between the player and the game. Now that these environments look big and grand, the real question is, why the fuck should I care? I just want to shoot the bad guys. Get out of here with your nerd shit. And secondly, this larger scale is crucial in creating an atmosphere that goes beyond just shooting shit. No, I'm not going to try and claim that these are the most atmospheric experiences on the planet. You know, not the same game where Quark had sex with a monkey, but there is something more there. These games boil down to walking through hyperlinear hallways in which you either shoot some bad guys or you jump around a bit. But they don't feel like that, do they? They feel like exploring worlds, even though you're really not exploring worlds. See, these frames make it feel like there's a world beyond the critical path, one that you never get around to exploring, even though it never existed in the first place. So yes, you could just blaze through all of these without a care in the world for the world. But I mean, if you wanted to do that, just go play Gladiator instead, where they didn't try and build an atmosphere through world. Instead, all they did is just have better gunplay, better controls. They had world design through the Box Media Empire instead of through the world. They had the great guns. They had almost perfect satire. You thought I didn't like it? I mean, it was better than Rack 1. Fight me. Okay, moving on. David, however you pronounce his last name's music, is, for lack of a better descriptor, fucking great. It does a major part in driving these openings, you know, with his interesting mix of hip-hop samples and electronic synths. I mean, it's just... So there's a reason that the opening of Altanus Orbit is loved so much. Like, you know, that first note, it's just echoing into space. Oh, it's great. Like, have you ever listened to the music of Planet Bolden, Silver City through headphones? He put some funky channel mixing shit in there, even though 99% of people are going to be listening to this shit through shitty, you know, mono CRT speakers. Okay, let me calm down for a second and talk about the best fucking Planet opening ever. Nothing in these games quite compares to landing on Yeetle for the first time. Those first notes combined with the prototype factory looming over you, it's just good, alright? You gotta infiltrate the headquarters of a company that by this point basically runs the entire galaxy. You, just one space rat and his toaster, are all that stands between Megacorp wiping out the galaxy over corporate greed. And the game makes damn fucking sure you feel it. Sure, these games might just be about mindless shooting, but there's a reason it's my favorite game series. There were some truly talented people working on these that cared for all these little additions. All the small little details that make it feel so much more like an adventure than just a game. So to the person who set up all those cameras and maybe thought that their work went unnoticed, I noticed. And I appreciated the fuck out of it. And maybe you should too.